Okay, so welcome back. So now we're going to talk about half-life. And I'm also going to talk about doubling time too, because it's appropriate. So in half-life, how do we set this up? How do we find the half-life? Well, we set up, again, we have y equals a naught e to the kt. Okay? Now, how do we find half-life? Well, remember, the definition of half-life is the amount of time it takes to half of what you started with. Well, if what I started with was a naught, then y half-life would be when the amount of time passes, whatever that amount of time is, I would end up with half of this. So y would equal what? So it's the time, so y of t, when y of t equals 1/2 a naught. So I'm just going to substitute in this, right? So I'm going to have half of it. So my formula then becomes what? 1/2 a naught equals a naught e to the kt. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to solve for t. Because if I solve this here for t, that's going to give me the formula for finding the half-life. So now, notice that if I divide both sides by a naught, the a naughts are going to go away, and I'm just going to end up with a half. Okay? So then what happens is I end up with what? I end up with 1/2 equals e to the kt. And so now, if I take the natural log of both sides, I end up with the natural log of 1/2 equal to kt. And then t equals the natural log of 1/2 over k. Now, this would be the half-life formula for finding this, right? Now you could also, again, you could also inverse this, right? And then pull the -1 out. And it's the same thing. So you could write this formula this way. Negative natural log of 2 over k. It's the same formula. Okay? Okay? I prefer this one because then you don't have to worry about the negative sign. Okay, and it's just natural log of 1/2, right? So again, it's not like it's going to be that difficult to calculate in your calculator. Now, this is also, you could also use this formula to solve for the constant. Okay, if you know the half-life. If you know the half-life, you can find the constant using the formula. It would just look like this. K equals the natural log of 1/2 over the half-life. Now, you can also use a similar formula for finding the doubling time. The only difference is instead of natural log of a half here, it'd be the natural log of 2. Okay. Now realize that if this is the half-life formula, k is negative. Okay. Okay. If it's doubling time, right, you would go through the same process, but instead of having a half here, this would be 2. And then, so this would end up having a 2 here. And then, so you'd end up with the same formula, except you have natural log of 2 over k. And of course, if it's a doubling time, then you're talking about growth. And so k would be positive. Okay, so again, things just to keep in mind as you're working through these things. Okay? And I think some of this stuff would be actually help you to remember the formulas as well. But again, it's very easy to derive the half-life formulas or the doubling formula. Okay. Have a great day.